There are moments in life that carve themselves into your memory so deeply that even years later, you can still feel the sting. Family wounds are some of the deepest, not because of what was done, but because of who did it. When the people who are supposed to love you the most become the ones who break your heart, it takes a kind of courage that most people never talk about, a courage not just to survive, but to rise. Today, I want to talk to you about 7 betrayals from siblings you should never ignore, never downplay, and never allow to shape your worth. This is not about holding grudges. It's about honoring your truth. It's about giving your heart permission to heal instead of pretending it never hurt. Before I share those 7 key betrayals, I want you to understand something. You were never created to shrink. You were never created to accept pain as a normal part of love. And you were never meant to stay quiet just to keep the family peace. Your story matters. Your boundaries matter. You matter. So let's go deep. Let's go honest. Let's go brave, because sometimes healing begins with a truth you've been afraid to say out loud. These 7 betrayals are not about bitterness. They are about boundaries. They are about reclaiming the power that was taken from you in silence. Healing doesn't mean pretending the wound never existed. Healing means refusing to let the wound define you. You are allowed to walk away from people who hurt you, even if they share your last name. You are allowed to protect your peace, even if they call you selfish. You are allowed to choose your mental and emotional health over family expectations. Your purpose is bigger than their opinions. Your heart is stronger than their betrayal, and your future will not be limited by the people who could not love you the way you deserved. You don't heal by going back to what broke you. You heal by rising into who you were always meant to be. And today, that rise begins with truth, courage, and the decision to never betray yourself again. When a sibling makes you feel small for your dreams, it creates a wound that is far deeper than most people ever acknowledge, because dreams are not just ideas floating in your mind. They are pieces of your soul, gentle sparks of who you are becoming. And when someone you love or grew up looks at those sparks and tries to blow them out with mockery or doubt, the silence that follows inside you becomes heavy and painful. You start questioning your own worth, your abilities, and the vision that once made your heart beat faster. You begin to internalize their words until they echo louder than your own voice. And slowly you learn to shrink your dreams so they fit into the small expectations they created for you. This is one of the most dangerous betrayals because it teaches you to doubt yourself at the foundation level. It convinces you that the things you once believed were possible are foolish, unrealistic, or childish. But the truth is, people who laugh at your dreams are often the ones who abandon their own. They see your courage and feel exposed. They see your hunger and feel threatened. They see your possibility and feel confronted by their own limitations. Their mockery is not a reflection of your potential. It is a mirror of their fear. The world is full of people who will try to dim your light. But when that dimming comes from someone who shares your childhood memories and your family story, the betrayal hits differently. It plants a seed of comparison that was never meant to grow. It teaches you that love must fit inside a small box where only their comfort matters, not your expansion. But the reality is, you were never meant to live small. You were never meant to fold your dreams so they fit into someone else's insecurities. You were born with a purpose, a fire, a calling that no one else can understand the way you do, and your dreams were given to you for a reason, not to them. You were meant to break patterns, break limits, and break open a new chapter of possibility for your life. So when a sibling dismisses your ambition or laughs at your goals, you must learn to hold your dream even tighter. Is that you must learn that your voice matters more than their opinion, and your vision is worth more than their approval. You must understand that their reaction does not define your future, because your future share does not require their permission. It only requires your belief. No one has the right to make you feel small for wanting more in life. Wanting more is not arrogance. Wanting more is not disloyalty. Wanting more is the nature of growth. And growth will always be uncomfortable for those who choose to stay where they are. When someone mocks your dream, let it remind you of how powerful it truly is. Let it remind you that you are stepping into a space they never dared to enter. Let it remind you that you are rising into a version of yourself they never imagined you could become. And most importantly, let it remind you that shrinking your light will never make someone else shine brighter. You owe it to yourself to dream boldly, live openly, and rise unapologetically, no matter who tries to hold you back. Your dream is yours. Protect it, honor it, believe in it, and never again allow anyone, even a sibling, to make you feel small for reaching toward the greatness that was always meant to be yours. When a sibling uses your weaknesses as weapons, it creates a kind of pain that settles deep inside your heart, because the things you shared with them were never meant to be used against you. You opened up because you believed you were safe. You shared your fears, your insecurities, your childhood wounds, and your private struggles because you thought family meant protection, not exposure. You trusted them with pieces of your soul that you did not show to the world. And when they turn those pieces into sharp edges that cut you, it shakes the very foundation of what you believed love was supposed to look like. It is a betrayal that feels personal, intentional, and unforgettable, not because of what they said or did, but because you never imagined they would be capable of hurting you in that way. The deepest kind of pain is not caused by strangers. It is caused by the people who knew you well enough to aim directly at the places where you are most vulnerable. When a sibling weaponizes your weakness, they are revealing something about themselves, not about you. They are showing you their inability to hold your truth with care, their lack of emotional maturity, and their fear of confronting their own shadows. People who have not healed their wounds often lash out at the ones who trust them the most because it gives them a temporary sense of power, but it always leaves permanent scars on the person being betrayed. What makes this kind of betrayal so devastating is that it creates silence inside you. You start questioning whether you should ever open up again. You begin to hide your feelings, suppress your struggles, and pretend you are stronger than you feel because the one person who should have protected your vulnerability taught you that vulnerability is dangerous. You learn to armor your heart, not because you want to, but because their betrayal left you no choice. But the truth is, your vulnerability is not a weakness. It is as a sign of courage, honesty, and emotional strength. The problem was never that you trusted. The problem was that they misused the trust you offered. When someone uses your weaknesses as weapons, you must understand that the way they treated you has nothing to do with your worth. You are not foolish for opening up. You are not stupid for trusting them. You are not fragile for needing support. You are human, and your humanity is not something to hide. It is something to honor. Healing from this betrayal requires a powerful shift inside you. It demands that you stop blaming yourself for their choices. It requires you to realize that your openness was a gift they did not deserve. You must learn to protect your heart without closing it. You must learn to set boundaries without building walls. You must learn to trust again, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve to live without carrying the weight of their actions. The betrayal they caused does not define you. What defines you is how you rise from it, how you reclaim your voice, how you choose to honor your truth, and how you decide that your vulnerability will never again be held in the wrong hands. You deserve relationships where your weaknesses are treated gently, where your fears are met with compassion, and where your heart is handled with care. Never again allow anyone, even a sibling, to turn your softness into a weapon. Your vulnerability is your power, and anyone who cannot honor it does not deserve access to it. Protect yourself. Believe in yourself, and keep your heart open for the people who will handle it with love, not harm. When a sibling competes with your success, instead of celebrating it, the pain that forms inside you is not just disappointment. It is a quiet heartbreak that stretches over years, because success is supposed to be something you share with joy, something that brings your family closer, something that makes the people who love you smile with pride. When the person who grew up beside you responds to your achievements with resentment, jealousy, or silent bitterness, it creates a fracture that is difficult to heal. You begin to feel guilty for things you should be proud of. You start minimizing your accomplishments so they will not feel threatened. You hide your victories not because you want to, but because you fear the reaction that follows. You start believing that your growth is a burden and your progress is a problem, and that belief slowly steals pieces of your confidence. The truth is, someone who loves you will never see your success as competition, because genuine love has no scoreboard and real support is never conditional. When a sibling competes with you, it is not your success that bothers them. It is their own unhealed comparison, their own insecurities, and their own fear that your growth exposes what they are not doing in their own life. Jealousy from a sibling is often rooted in childhood patterns, moments when one felt overlooked or less appreciated, and instead of healing that wound, they project it onto you. But their reaction is not your responsibility. Their insecurity is not your job to fix. You are not meant to shrink so they can feel tall. You are not meant to dim your light so they can feel bright. You are not meant to carry the emotional weight of their unhealed wounds. When a sibling competes with your success, it can make you feel isolated even in a house full of people. It makes you feel like something is wrong with you for doing well. It makes you doubt whether your achievements are worth celebrating at all. But success is not something to apologize for. So success is something to honor, something to embrace, something to build your life upon. You have every right to be proud of yourself, to grow, to rise, and to evolve into the person you were always meant to become. Their jealousy is not a sign that you should slow down. It is a sign that you are moving in the right direction. People do not get jealous of what is ordinary. They get jealous of what is extraordinary. Your success only bothers those who are unwilling to do the work required to achieve their own. This betrayal is painful because it makes you question the meaning of family, but it is also powerful because it teaches you the importance of emotional boundaries. You must learn to celebrate yourself even when others do not. You must learn to believe in yourself even when the people closest to you cannot. You must learn that their inability to clap for you says everything about them and nothing about you. A sibling who competes with you is not your enemy. They are simply a person who has not yet learned how to love themselves, and people who do not love themselves struggle to love others without conditions. You cannot fix that. You cannot carry that. You cannot sacrifice your future for the sake of their comfort. You must keep rising, keep growing, keep shining, and trust that the right people will celebrate you loudly, proudly, and without hesitation. Your success is not a threat. It is a gift, and anyone who cannot see that does not deserve a place in the front row of your life. Keep moving forward, keep believing in your journey, and never again shrink your greatness for someone who refuses to rise with you. When a sibling manipulates you through guilt, the damage it creates inside you is slow, quiet, and deeply corrosive because guilt is one of the most powerful tools of control. And when someone you love uses it to bend your choices, shape your emotions, or dictate your actions, it begins to erode the very sense of self you have worked so hard to build. Guilt from a sibling does not always come in loud accusations or dramatic scenes. Sometimes it comes in subtle comments, quiet sighs, or unspoken expectations that hang in the air like invisible chains, making you feel responsible for their happiness, their struggles, or their failures. You begin to carry emotional weight that was never yours to hold, and with every step you take toward your own life, your own dreams, your own healing, they remind you that you are somehow leaving them behind, betraying them, or abandoning them, even when all you are doing is simply trying to live. You start saying yes, Wes, when your entire soul is screaming no. You start apologizing for things that were never your fault. You start believing your worth is tied to how much you sacrifice for them. And slowly you forget that love is not supposed to feel like obligation, and family is not supposed to feel like a trap. Guilt manipulation from a sibling is a betrayal that feels personal because it targets your deepest desire to be a good person, to be loyal, to be caring, and to be supportive, and they twist that desire into something they can use to get what they want. Instead of appreciating your heart, they exploit it. Instead of valuing your presence, they demand it. Instead of loving your kindness, they take advantage of it. But the truth is, you are not responsible for their life path. You are not obligated to rescue them from their choices, and you are not required to shrink your own life so they can feel comfortable in theirs. Every person has their own journey, their own lessons, and their own responsibilities. And carrying someone else's emotional load does not make you loving. It makes you exhausted. And exhaustion is not a sign of loyalty. It is a sign of being drained. When a sibling manipulates you through guilt, it teaches you to abandon yourself. And that is the deepest betrayal of all, because once you abandon yourself, every boundary becomes blurry, every decision becomes heavy, and every relationship becomes harder to navigate. You start living for their expectations instead of your own truth. But the moment you step back, the moment you choose yourself, the moment you say no, they may call you selfish, cold, or ungrateful, but those words are nothing more than their fear of losing control over you. A person who truly loves you does not use guilt as currency, and they do not define your worth by how much you give up for them. Choosing yourself is not selfish. Setting boundaries is not cruel. Wanting peace is not betrayal. You deserve relationships where love is free of manipulation, where giving is mutual, and where your heart feels safe, not controlled. Guilt is only powerful when you accept it as yours, and the moment you return it to the person who created it, you reclaim your freedom. You have the right to make decisions that honor your growth, your mental health, and your dreams without feeling like you owe anyone an apology. You were not put on this earth to be someone else's emotional anchor, especially not at the cost of drowning yourself. Release the guilt, step into your truth, and allow yourself to breathe without permission. Your life belongs to you, and no amount of emotional manipulation can change that truth. You deserve to feel free, whole, and unburdened, and you never again need to carry guilt that was never yours to begin with. When a sibling betrays your trust and calls it a mistake, it creates a kind of wound that takes far longer to heal than anyone on the outside can ever understand, because trust is not something that appears overnight. It is something built slowly, moment by moment, year after year, through shared secrets, shared fears, shared laughs, and shared memories. And when someone you grew up with abuses that trust, the hurt is not just about what they did, but about what you believed they would never do, Mistake is something that happens once, something accidental, something unexpected. But when a sibling repeatedly breaks your trust and then hides behind the excuse of a mistake, it becomes clear that the issue is not their actions, but their choices, because people do not accidentally hurt you in the same way over and over again. They choose to, and that choice reveals a truth you may not want to see. This kind of betrayal forces you to question your own judgment. It makes you doubt your ability to read people. It makes you wonder whether you were blind to the signs or simply too loving to acknowledge them. And in that confusion, you begin to carry blame that does not belong to you. Trust is one of the most sacred bonds in any relationship, especially between siblings. And when that bond is broken, something inside you collapses, not loudly, but quietly enough that others may not notice, yet deeply enough that you feel it every time you try to open your heart again. You begin to hold back your truth, you share less, you hide more, you become cautious with your words and protective of your feelings, because the one person who should have valued your honesty treated it as something disposable. People who break trust often believe that an apology is enough, that a few words can wash away the hurt, that a simple excuse can erase the damage. But an apology without change is not healing. It is manipulation, and forgiveness without accountability is not peace. It is self-abandonment. You cannot rebuild trust with someone who refuses to take responsibility for the pain they caused, and you cannot create closeness with someone who only wants access to your heart, but not the responsibility that comes with it. The truth is, broken trust changes you. It forces you to grow. It sharpens your intuition. It strengthens your boundaries. And it teaches you that love must never override self-respect. When a sibling breaks your trust, it is heartbreaking, but it is also revealing, because it shows you who they truly are behind the title of family, and it shows you that biological connection does not guarantee emotional loyalty. You are allowed to distance yourself from people who hurt you. You are allowed to protect your peace from those who repeatedly dishonor it, and you are allowed to choose healing over history. Trust can be rebuilt, but only with effort, consistency, honesty, and humility. And if they are unwilling to give that, then you must give yourself permission to walk away. You deserve relationships where your truth is protected, where your honesty is respected, and where your heart is handled with care. You do not need to keep giving chances to someone who keeps showing you they cannot be trusted. Their actions define them, not your forgiveness. Your worth does not depend on how many times you tolerate betrayal. Your strength lies in recognizing the truth, even when it hurts, and choosing yourself even when it is difficult. Trust is precious, sacred, and rare. And anyone who cannot honor it does not deserve the parts of you that you give with love. Protect your heart. Honor your truth. Call a choice a mistake just to escape the responsibility of what they have done. When sibling belittles your pain, because your family creates a kind of an invisible weight that no one else can see, but that sits heavily on your chest and in your heart, because family is to feel sad, express your moods, and suppress the goods where you can cry with a place where you feel emotion or express or being compassionate, or when the people perception of who's you are, whether they're jealous you or overreacting, it teaches you to doubt your own perception of reality, and it makes you question whether your emotions are valid or whether they are just an inconvenience to those around you. Of this betrayal is that it often comes with the expectation of silence, because they believe that being family gives them ignore your experience without your consent. And in that moment, you begin to feel invisible as the nada will not be acknowledgement, and you start to shrink your people, to shrink your love of what they thought for your own hearters, that not work to your consent and rewrite your experience without your truth and the feel. Belittling your pain is not just a small act. It is a signal that they do not respect the inner world, that you live in the vulnerabilities you carry fight every single day, and it can make you feel it even unconditionally, even in the kanglek, is not loud, it is quiet, sublovio, unkan people are scintillated, the people who are supposed to your addles you, the battles you day, and battles you world. When a sibling tells you that your feelings are not real or important because of family ties, it is a betrayal. It cuts deeper than any argument because it undermines the trust that you have in your own judgments. Can teen be silence even when and teaches you that your voice of it matters most. The truth is that your emotions are never wrong, even if someone cannot understand them, and your experiences are never less significant simply because they make others uncomfortable. A family does not give anyone the right to invalidate your struggles, and you are not required to accept their version of what love should look like. Healing from this betrayal requires that to honor your feelings. Even when they are dismissed, it requires the strength to speak your truth without fear of judgment, and it demands that you realize that moral support is a choice, not a given, even among those who share, demands that you recognize and share your blood. You have the right to create boundaries with people who minimize your pain, to seek spaces where your heart is heard, and to protect your well-being even when it means stepping back from relationships that have caused hurt. Belittling your pain is a reflection of their limitations, not of your worth, and anyone who cannot validate your feelings does not deserve the full access to your heart. You must remind yourself every day that your emotions are valid, that your experiences matter, and that your healing is your responsibility, not theirs. You deserve relationships that honor the complexity of your heart, that listen with empathy, and that hold space for your truth without judgment. You are allowed to love deeply, but also to protect yourself from those who cannot meet you where you are. Never let anyone diminish your pain simply because they are family. Your feelings are sacred. Your heart is precious, and your journey is yours to navigate with authenticity and uncompromising self-respect. The world will try to tell you to silence your hurt, but you must continue to feel, to continue to speak, and to continue to honor yourself above all else, because that is how real healing begins. In life, the deepest wounds are often inflicted by the people we love the most, and while it is painful to realize that those closest to us can betray us, also worth a gift is it teaches us the importance of self-respect and the necessity, the value in protecting our own peace, because it the important sense hurt our hearts and challenge and trust us, hurt our hearts. Healing does not mean forgetting or pretending the pain never happened. It means honoring our experiences, acknowledging the betrayals, and choosing ourselves even when it is difficult, even when the people who hers we expected to uncomfort us are the feels of us unconditionally. You have the right to walk away from relationships that diminish you. You have the right to protect your heart and your dreams, and you have the right to rise of the patterns of hurt and betrayal that have been passed down to you. Never mistake loyalty for self-sacrifice, and never allow guilt to control your choices, and never let anyone use your vulnerability as a weapon. True strength is not measured by how much pain you endure silently, but by how boldly you reclaim your life, how courageously you speak your truth, and how unapologetically you love yourself in a world that sometimes to recognize your worth as your worth. The 7 betrayals we have spoken about are not meant to create bitterness. They are meant to illuminate truth. They're meant to empower you, protect your heart, and they remind you that never harmed by how fiercely you honor your others treat you, but then they're your own journey. You are allowed to rise to your full potential even when the people around you do not support it. You are allowed to protect your dreams even when others feel threatened by them, and you are allowed to love deeply, away the power to without giving away control your life. Stand tall, trust yourself, embrace your courage, and never forget that you are worthy of love, respect, and joy even when the world tries to you otherwise, because the greatest act of bravery is not only surviving, but the harken and trail. And the vision that visum brov isn't that is whole a surprising no one can spirit, was the heart that is to convince you brovin no one can steal.